Hey YouTube, it's been a little bit since I think the last video I made was on the D4. I've just been extremely busy. So let's give you a lowdown on what I haven't videoed on this. We'll start videoing here. Here's the situation. This is a 2012 367 Peterbilt, and it's got a epa10 Paccar mx13 in it. And this one here, I don't know how it happened. It doesn't really make sense. I've never seen one do this. I don't know if the oil just got so hot in it, because what happened is I guess the driver broke the main fan belt heading over to 140 or something with a load of hay. Well, it got so hot that it started knocking. Well, it spun a main bearing and a rod bearing. And on these Packars, you guys know they've got fractured main caps, so once you spin a main bearing, you're pretty well done with the block because there's no fixing it. So he found another engine. He found a epa17 up there that a guy had bought a pretty low mile 389 Peterbilt truck and pulled the engine out and put a C15 in it. Well, he bought this engine. He got all the emissions components with it, because you know all this stuff changes to this smaller catalyst right here. The framework, everything changes. The step changes. Hang on, I'm getting text messages. Oh, okay. Never mind. Anyway, so we got to mount this on there. We got to mount this def tank. We can't, I already pulled the other DPF SCR assembly off of there, because on this newer style, they got rid of the decomp tube and all that stuff. It's actually quite a bit simpler than the old style setup. It's not near as bulky either. But we still got to get this mounted on there and get the frame drilled out to accommodate this bracketry. And we have to mount that def tank. We can't even use that old def tank because the harness, the after treatment harness that plugs into that, is completely different. So we ordered another thing that we ran into on this. I got parts laying everywhere, and I'll show you why here in a minute, what I was doing yesterday, trying to figure things out. And another thing that we have to have is so we got the VIN number off of the truck this engine came out of, the epa17, and you'll see these two round plugs here. And it's just like that X15 out there, kind of a similar thing. It's a Peterbilt thing, I think, because one end of this plug plugs into the fuse panel, and the after treatment harness plugs into the other. Okay, coming out of the fuse panel, something like that. I think the after treatment harness, yeah, the after treatment harness just plugs in there, and this one plugs into the fuse panel. And so we ordered the fuse panel for it that goes right here. We found that off the VIN number off the truck this come out of, and then we found the after treatment harness. So we got that as ordered. The after treatment harness is coming out of Toronto, Canada. So it's going to be a little while before it gets here. So the next problem that I ran into was everything on the front. Let me get a light. Man, I'm batting 1,000. I had a little light there that I packed around with me, and maybe I brought it. I'm still getting text messages coming in, but here's the light. So what I've got going on here, this is my major concern right now, is okay. So the truck that this engine came out of was a 2018 389 Peterbilt. Okay, so I had this radiator sitting up against the wall out of one of my other retrofits. I think Tom's. I bought this radiator from Tom when I did his, because we used his original radiator and everything on his 1995 Peterbilt. That's the one the log truck, the green and white one, we took the C model cat out of and stuck the CM2350 in. Well, this radiator is out of a 2013 389 Peterbilt. And as you can see, everything lines up perfectly on here, okay? But the problem is the radiator's about 5 or 6 inches too tall, and the hood's not going to shut. So here's what I tried yesterday. This is the fan hub. The fan hub on the epa10, everything is different. Everything sits low on the front of the motor on the epa10. I mean, I tried to swap everything around from the epa10. I thought, well, I just swapped all the components from the epa10 to the front of the motor on the epa17. No big deal. Well, nothing will work because they've completely changed everything. This threaded hole for the tensioner and everything is not even there. Everything's different. It won't work. The only thing that would mount up properly is the fan hub bolts were in the same spot. And I could mount the fan hub on and get it down, because you can see this fan hub mounted right above the crankshaft damper. The other fan hub is way higher than that. And I think they did all that for the 389, is what they did. So I think the solution to this problem is going to be, is that everything on this front of the engine, I bet you, because I talked to Frank down in Sonoma, and Frank is the guy that we did the fuel truck retrofit on, that we took the B model cat out of and stuck the ISL9 and the 367 Peterbilt in that one. So Frank's got a 2015 389 and a 2015 367, and he said they both have Cummins in them. They're same exact engine, but he said everything on the 367 on the front of the engine is completely different. Fan hub, everything's mounted down lower, and I think that's what we got going on here. I think we got to find a 367 VIN and start comparing part numbers and pictures of the front end of a 367 in a 2018 and the front of a 389 2018 with the same engine. I think that's where all our differences are going to be. I think they changed everything on the front of the engine to accommodate the shorter hood, and the hoods. The hoods on these 367s, they kind of taper down on the front. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm going to pull this all back out of there. It's not going to work. It's too damn tall. And set it aside. I'm going to measure the core, the width and the height, just to give Tom up there a little bit more information. We were thinking maybe they changed this front bolster here where everything sits, and maybe it was sitting down lower or something, but that doesn't really make much sense either, because then your spring eyes and everything would change. So they had to change everything on the front of the engine, just like they did on the Cummins in Frank's trucks. That's what I'm thinking here. So we're going to pull this all back off and set it aside and start doing some measuring. And then I've got the DPF and everything sitting on the ground here. I'm going to get a hold of this older DPF decomp tube setup here on this and crane it aside and get the new one over here. We'll pull these brackets off, because these brackets will not work for the application that we're going to. And I got the def tank off of it. I got the transmission and the engine all mounted up. That's all good to go. I still got to put the pressure plate bolts in. But see, here's another thing that's different too. These Paccars, see the ISX Cummins, like the CM2350s and X15s, they're using the ECM itself is the after treatment control module on a Cummins. But on these Paccars, they have their own after treatment control module. That's why when you're doing a regen or something like that, on my Texas software, I have to go into the SCR Catalyst controller to do a forced regen. I can't just go into the ECM on the engine. That's why right there, because they have their own module for the after treatment system. And here's the module that come out of the Peterbilt up there in Redmond. So this is the old module for the old setup, which we need to remove, and then we got to figure out how we're going to mount that. But I was kind of waiting on the after treatment harness to show up first and see, how that harness is laid out, to make sure if I mount this here, I got to make sure that it's going to reach. See what I'm saying? So before a guy gets too carried away and gets all that mounted, he might have to undo everything that he did and waste a bunch of time and mount it somewhere else. So we got to get the harness in first before we go much further on that. I'll show you over here this fuse panel off the 2012. See, they've got all completely different. It's a completely different setup. See, it all has rectangular plugs and everything in it. It's just not going to work for what we're doing. And the after treatment harness going over there is completely different too. So anyways, I thought that would kind of give you a quick rundown as to the situation we're in. Oh, while I'm stepping on this, here's another thing that we got to do. So when the guy sent all this stuff over, with the 389, he didn't send us the fuel. Well, he sent us one fuel line. This fuel line here is actually the return line. So Tom's looking for a supply line. I need a supply line to go from here to here. You know, Dynacraft made these hoses different. The nipple on the end of the hose is smaller here. No, it's bigger. One of the two. Let's pull it off real quick. I'll show you what I'm talking about. See, that nipple on that hose is bigger. It won't go into that supply line part. So he's looking for a hose for me. So it's just a typical cluster. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, we're plugging along here. Trying to get this all mocked up. I spent a little time trying to... I got all this entire coolant manifold out of there because it's different. We got to put the one from the other truck in there. So I had to unbolt all that bolts into the frame rail. The heat valve and everything. This is your heat valve for your DEF tank. It preheats your water, which in turn preheats your DEF. So that's incorporated into the tank. I'm pretty certain all the newer DEF tanks that I've seen, that's already in the tank. Yeah, see, it's right here. That's already there. So we don't need that on there. So right now what I'm trying to do is before I started drilling holes, which I got a bolt and I was trying to use one existing hole here, which isn't going to work because this step with that right there, this step bolts to this framework with these just 6 bolts, I think. No, there's only 4. There's only 4 bolts to hold this whole step assembly on there. But see, it's hitting right here, so this whole thing's got to go down, and which I think Wyatt's going to have to put a weed burner on this to make this work. I don't think a stack assembly is going to work on this, which that's what I did on the X15. We put a weed burner on it. It was just way simpler than trying to get the stacks plumbed. So I'm actually in the process of pulling this stack off of here. As you can see, I've got it loose up there. I was going to see if I could get this to pop. Will that come loose? Squirted some PB blaster up in there. Trying to come loose, isn't it? Let me, now that I've got that loose up there, maybe I'll put a little more tension on it with the crane, and then we'll see if we can get it worked off there, and then we're going to have to reposition, pull the bolt back out of here, and we're going to have to move it down. What we're going to have to do is mock all this stuff up before we even get there. So I think what we'll do, we'll put the down pipe back on the outlet side of the turbo, get it mounted to the bell housing here, and then there's another pipe that hooks to that will hook to the actual DPF. So let me get situated here. Okay, we're in the process of trying to get stuff mocked up here to where we can try to make life the simplest as possible for us. Hopefully. I might try to move this thing down far enough to where we'll see what happens. If it's sticking out too much on the back end, we might have to do something different on the plumbing. I don't know yet. You got to keep in mind though, this engine came out of a 389 Peterbilt. Everything from here forward is sticking out further, so. Uh-oh, what happened? I thought I was going the right way, wasn't I? Yeah. What happened there? Get on there. Okay, so there's that. So let's see what we got as far as I gotta get this other pipe and see where it's gonna line up at, if it's even gonna be close. Because I'd like to use that if I possibly could, because where it goes into the inlet side of the DPF, DOC catalyst, it's kind of got a down angle, and so does that one pipe, if I can find out what I did with it. What did I do with that pipe? That is a very, very good question. Oh, here it is over here. This is the pipe off. This one's off. This bellows pipe here is off this one, but this is the one that came off the epa17. Oh. Okay, let's see where we're gonna be at here. Oh, that's not working. Yeah, it's gonna be way too long. I can tell already. It's gonna be way too long. Oh yeah. And I don't think I need to go down that far. So I wonder about the other pipe that's on the other DPF. They're both 5-inch. Are they the same kind of flange? Man, I don't think it's the same kind of flange though, going to, because this has the big taper on it. See, the big taper on that end. I don't know. I don't know about that. I guess I'll get that other pipe, pull it off that DPF and see if it's even going to be close. If it's closer, I might be able to move it down just a skosh to get things to line up. I'm wondering, should I be down further a little bit to, I don't know. I don't think so. I think I want to be up about where those holes are right there. That's kind of where I want to be. I want to kind of get it square though too, and measure from here to the top of the frame flange on both sides and get it. I'm not going to adjust my jack to go like this too, so to make sure that she's setting level. Alright guys, so this pipe fits almost exactly perfect on there, with the exception of, you know, I'm trying to decide. This has got a bigger bell on it. Certain of that. This other end fits just right, and it lines, this one almost lines up perfectly with where it needs to be. But these ends right here, the bells are different. See, I don't know if that would work or not. See, this one's got more of a taper to it here, and it takes that wider gasket. This one takes the narrow gasket, and it doesn't have as much taper to it. And you know, on these DPF and SCR systems, you can't have any leaks at all, or nothing works right. So I'm wondering if I can just take this thing and just, is that metal going to be good enough to just weld? I wonder if I can cut this end off. I mean, how critical is it to have this insulation stuff on there? I see they got a clamp or some kind of clamp on the end, but even if you cut the clamps off, has it got a seam in it that'll come apart? Or is it all glued together? Or I don't know how critical it is to have this stuff on there. I mean, it must be doing something, because they have some kind of heat covering over this one too. What's going to be the simplest way to do this? Or will this one seal up if you put it on there and put a gasket and a clamp on there? It might seal up. I don't know. Let's go look at it real close again. See if we can figure this out, what we're going to do here. You put the big, thick, heavy gasket on there, it might seal up. Pull it up tight. Let's just see what we got. Yeah, they sure can't standardize anything, can they? Everything's got to be different. They don't make it easy on a guy. A place for my light to stand up there. I mean, kind of where it's sitting at, it's almost in the right spot. See how it lines up here with this one? I mean, it's almost in the right position right now. I could go back a little bit further with the whole DPF and everything. Probably another maybe inch or so. And that would line up pretty good. Would this seal up though if I left this in the way it is? I actually think it would. Let's see here. I think it would, really. I think part of my issue is I'm hitting a little bit right in here. Well, part of that's the old gasket that's on there maybe, huh? I see it's still got some of that old gasket on there. I thought maybe I was hitting right here on the ID, hitting on this lip, this protrusion that's sticking out. Now, if a guy has to, I if we can grind that down a little bit. I kind of think it'll fit and it'll seal up. I really do. You put that big, thick, heavy gasket in there, and I think it'll seal up. So for now, I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to move the DPF SCR down just a little ways, down the frame, and mock this back up again to where, what do we figure out? Probably, if I'm looking at this, and I set this up here to where it's the downpipes at a perfectly 90-degree angle. I'm not, I'd say maybe about an inch, maybe down, push it towards the back of the truck. Okay, so let me do that, and then we'll try again, and then we'll finally, if I'm happy, well, you know what, I could probably do most of it from right here. Let's see if I can do this without dumping it on this old rough floor in this place. She's not rolling. There we go. It's a little better, huh? Okay, let's see where we're at now. I could probably make that work right there. You know what? I think I can make that work. If anything, I went just a little bit too far. I might come back just a skosh. Just a little bit. If I can make it move a little bit, it's either all or none of this damn thing. There we go, there we go, there we go. Hey, what's that like? That'll work. I think that'll get us by. Yeah, I like it. I like it right there. That's where I like it at. But let's get out and look at it outside and see where it's winding up towards the back. I want to try to make it look as half right as possible. I'm still a little bit, I gotta go back towards the frame a little ways, but that's not too bad, huh? I was worried about this sticking past the cab and that looking really stupid. But really, I think that's just fine right there where it's at. And you'll see the step goes in right here. Here's where the holes line up for the step, right there. And yeah, this will come into back towards the frame rail a little ways further. Not much. Right in there. Right around in there somewhere. Yeah, I think that's going to work out just fine, guys. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look 100% factory, but pretty close. So I'm going to say I'm content with that. And I think I'm going to mark my holes. Get them all center punched, paint marked, all that stuff. I do both. That way at least I can get centered on it too when I'm drilling. And then pull the step back off of here. Good place to grab it at. And I'll get in there and grab my pipe one more time. Make sure nothing moved on me, but yeah, we'll mark our holes in here. All these holes we're going to have to blank with some shorter bolts. I'll have to find some shorter 5/8 bolts. You don't want to leave all these open like this, anything like that with the def tank, because that def tank's going to be, that's the small def tank over there, that's the big one, so that's going to be different. Yeah, but we'll blank all these holes off before we send it down the road. Yeah, I like it. I do. And I'll measure from the top flange here to here, and I'll adjust my jack like this to get it square to the frame. See what I'm saying? I don't want, you know, it running downhill or uphill or something like that, which it looks like it's pretty damn close where it's setting. But, yeah, I'm happy. We'll mark some holes and get after it. You guys see anything there? I got one hole drilled. I got 7 more to go. I'm lined up where I need to be there. Where's my tap oil? Right here. Let's give her a go. Kind of a good spot for my light to be in. Okay, how am I going to get this one hole down here? I'm going to have to turn this thing sideways somehow. Oh. Am I going to be able to run the handle right there? I'm going to have to do something different. Things around here. Just trying to keep from moving that heavy bastard as much as possible. this down. I can't mark this. I can't even mark this one hole till I get. What the deal is, guys, is the inside bolt on the bottom. The bolt comes out and hits the framework. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'll drill 3 holes on each one, and then I'll have to unbolt this from the framework, bolt them into the 3 holes I just drilled, and then I'll be able to pull that bolt out of there then, and then I can mark the hole there and then drill it. But I gotta blank a bunch of holes too that we're not gonna be using. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that with this one though. I don't like doing that right there. I really don't. 2 holes real close together. And I'm not gonna lie to you, you know what I'll probably do to that one? I'll probably weld it up. I know you'll probably frown on that, but we've welded a bunch of those holes up. It's too close. It's too close together, and then on top of that, it's gonna interfere, because this is all, it may, I'll have to look at that. That may not interfere with this. Yeah, it's going to, because you can see how much meat there is on that. It's going to interfere with that if you try to put a bolt in there. You won't get this mounted flat. So I'm probably going to weld that. We'll probably fill that all in with weld and then grind it flat and make it look right. Because these other holes, though, I'll definitely, this one here will be, I'm trying to think. No, I can't do anything with this one either, because yeah, I can't do nothing with that one either, because it'll hit right here on this, because this will be kind of about right over in here somewhere. So these 2 holes here, we're not going to be able to do a whole lot with them. We'll have to weld them shut. You know, that's about all a guy can do with that. You can't get a bolt in there, or you'll never get this mounted. It's just better to try to blank holes as much as you can in these frames. When they get to looking like Swiss cheese like this, it's not good. That's how frames break. So, anyway, well, I got 3 drilled there. Well, we got more to drill over there. All right, guys. Well, we got this mounted. I'm gonna put the step on here real quick and just kind of see how things look. Hopefully, we don't have to do any backtracking. Here. Okay, where are the holes at? Seems like we're missing something here. No, I see now. It bolts down there. Okay, we're not. Holes at here. They're over this direction. I had a heck of a time finding where I need to be. Okay, how about the bottom? So that lines up, those are lining up on the top. Check these bottom holes out. Okay, well, we can kick it in, I guess, a little bit there. One there, one there. Okay, so that should work out just fine. Okay. All right. We got that pretty well mounted. I guess the next thing to do is the def tank. I don't know, do we need this piece hanging on there? We probably don't really need that now. I don't know yet. Okay, so we got some lines kind of hanging here off the wet key that they're obviously not using anymore. Get them plugged up. Let me pack that other def tank over here and see if anything would. It'd be really nice if we didn't have to drill more holes, but yeah, probably going to have to. Well, we got the def tank mounted, and I was really fortunate. I didn't have to drill any holes. These 4 holes on this side lined right up with the def tank bracket there, so we got 4 bolts in that. You can see they lined right up. I was pretty happy there. So anyway, let's start plumbing the, I guess let's get this step back off of there. We'll leave it off till we're buttoning this thing up and done with it, because we still have quite a few hurdles to overcome here. Let me get this off real quick. We can probably start plumbing this. I had a little headlamp, and I had a customer show up and have a bullshit session, and I set my headlamp down somewhere and don't know where in the hell I put it. Okay. Well, that's not good. Let me find my headlamp. We'll climb under here, guys, and we'll get all these lines. Now this, see, I think that other truck, the 2018 389, I'm kind of thinking that their tank was mounted on the other side, as long as the def lines are. So we're probably going to have to coil them up in there. We're going to use them, guys, because those things are about $500 a piece. A lot of people don't understand why they're so expensive. They have a heated element. You know, there's a pair of wires, a power and a ground, that goes completely through that entire line on each one. That's your heaters for your line, so they don't freeze the def up in them. That's why they're so expensive. But which probably still doesn't make too much sense. They could probably manufacture those things in our mass production facilities now for probably about $5 a piece, you know, but they sell them for $500 a piece. But anyway, all right, let's I gotta find my headlamp. Well, I've looked high and low. I don't know. The guy got to talking to me, and I set it down somewhere, took it off my head and set it down somewhere, and I don't know where in the hell I put it. So I'll probably find it when I'm starting to put everything up tonight, or it'll be gone. All right. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what to do next year, I guess. Okay, and this is going to be coming out of there. This harness is going to be completely coming out of there and going away. But we got to get these def lines strung out in here. Somewhere to put my light. Somewhere to put the camera. Really not much of a good place for any of this stuff. This was part of the heater on that other setup, which it's going to be going away too. We'll run all this stuff. I think what I want to do here next, I need to pull all this back through here. I guess I need to get this harness here out of the way, because all the def lines and all that crap's going to be running through this hole. And then we got to figure out how we're going to take up some of the slack, because they're going to be way too long. I mean, we're just going from there to there, and the other truck had them obviously mounted over there, and they were probably going across the cross member. Because on a 389, this sets back even further too, and they usually come up, you'll come ahead with them, then come over the cross member, and then go back into the your DPF and all that stuff. So yeah, let's get this harness here out of the way, and it's going to completely come out of there anyway, because the new after treatment harness is going to be in its place, because this won't work anymore. I think this won't even plug in. Yeah, this won't even plug into any of that. It's just like almost like the X15 I did. This is the old style setup with the round plug. They don't use that anymore. So yeah, let me get this unhooked and get this harness out of our way. At least get it back here somewhere to where we can start dealing with running the def lines and plumbing them. Well, I'm gonna have to cut this end off and put the other end of that other bell and weld it onto this pipe, because it's just the wrong end, and the clamp's never even gonna, the V-band clamp's never even gonna grab it correctly and pull it in and tighten it up. It's too narrow. So that sucks. Oh, nothing can ever just be easy, you know. So I might do that tomorrow. I still got to put the pressure plate bolts in. I need to put the PTO back in the transmission. So there's plenty of stuff to do here. Power steering pressure line needs to go on. Still got to tighten up the rest of the bell housing bolts. Yeah, so there's plenty of stuff to do here. So I'll hold off on that. I'll have to, I'm trying to figure out if I could get that in the bandsaw. It'd be really nice to put that in the bandsaw and cut it off real nice and straight and clean. But I might end up having a, you can't even get a wrap around. I guess I got to take a piece of string and wrap around it and draw a line and cut a straight line there. But yeah, it's a pain in the butt. Anyway, so I guess, guys, I'm going to put the pressure plate bolts in it. Put the PTO back in it. I got to get my turning tool. I got to pull this, yeah, I got to pull this one off so I can turn the engine. Anyway, yeah, so we're gaining on her, guys. We have come a long ways in the last few days. Yeah, we've come a long ways in the past few days, so still a long ways to go, though. I was really happy about that def tank, man. That was just sure saved me some time. You know, not having to mark and drill more holes, so. Alright, guys, well, that's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to get the inspection plate for the turning tool, pop it off the bell housing, and get the turning tool in there and turn the engine around to where we can get the holes lined up and start putting pressure plate bolts back in it, and then get the PTO back in it. Alright, I'm trying to get you in a spot somewhere to where get a light here somewhere to wedge up in here. So if you're doing it this way, I don't hardly ever anymore on a truck like this, I don't hardly ever do it the old way. I just leave the clutch and the flywheel in it, and I pull the pressure plate bolts out. It's just so much easier on your back. Then you don't have to lift that clutch up and try to muscle that thing onto the guide studs. And the other thing is, you don't have to spline anything up. The only thing you got to line up is the pilot on it. So it makes a heck of a difference. It really does. But the key to doing this, and it's almost like working on anything else, don't tighten all the bolts up till you get them all started. So you got to make 2 complete revolutions with the crankshaft to do it this way. But it's still, to me, you know, everybody has their own way of doing things. That's one thing for certain about doing these kinds of projects, is everybody has their own ways of doing things. I'm trying to see in there and I can't. I know that sometimes if you tighten them up before you get them all in there, you can't get, you'll get rolled around there and you can't get one of them started. And that's very aggravating. Okay, I just run them in a ways. Just like that. Okay, that one's started. Go to the next set of holes. That is one thing I will say that I do like about the Paccar. I like this, being able to turn this right here and look through the inspection hole and see where all your stuff's lining up at. I do like that about it. feels a little bit, kind of a little bit funny, but okay, it's going in. Okay. All right, we got 2 more, and then we can tighten them all up. And then we can, I'll have to pull the grease line back off to slide the inspection plate back up there where it needs to be. I kind of put the cart before the horse on that one, but then we can put the PTO back in the truck. Everything's just another step closer to being done. One thing about these big projects like this, you just, like this pipe, you get hung up on that, you know, and it ain't quite right. And you don't have to do that right now. You can move on to about 30 other things on it and keep going, you know, so there's no shortage of work to do on projects like this. It's never ending. So you got one here that's not wanting to start. That's what happens right there. You'll get clear down to the last bolt and that sucker won't start on you. And then you'll have to rotate it all. Then you'll have to rotate it 3 times because you have to go clear back around and get them all loose that you tightened up. Trying to get pushing with my thumb a little bit, give it a little bit of pressure on it. Okay, that one started. Now we can give her hell. All right, well, so I just got to rotate it on around, guys, and tighten them all up, and then I'll get the PTO, put it on there. Luckily, the gasket stayed on there, and it didn't damage it. So that means that that's a good thing. We don't have to shim the PTO and mess around with that. All right, guys, so we've definitely made a lot of progress today. I got the, you know, the DPF SCR, got it mounted. This is not going to work the way it is. I'm going to have to cut this bell off. Hopefully it's got pretty good heavy metal there where I can, I'll take that little 110 Lincoln. I've got an SP135 little MIG welder, and which works really good on that thin-walled stuff like that. So I'm going to cut that off and put the other bell off the other pipe on there because it just won't work. So got that mounted, got the def tank mounted as you already know. Got the PTO pump and PTO mounted. All the pressure plate bolts back in the flywheel. And that's doing pretty good. So, I mean, the large majority of the work is completed and things are hooked up. The only thing that we're lacking is this front end. And I got to grab the paperwork tomorrow. Tom printed a bunch of stuff out for me, and I did confirm with other guys, that friends of mine, quite a few of my buddies have trucks of their own or work for trucking fleets that have newer trucks and older trucks, and I've confirmed pretty much that my suspicions were correct, that everything on the front of this engine is going to have to change. You know, as far as like the fan hub being moved down, and because Tom looked up a 2018 367, and he looked up a 2000, and we gave him the VIN off the other, the engine, the truck that this engine came out, and the fan hubs had different part numbers on them, so they are different, and the tensioners were different. So yeah, we're probably, tomorrow we'll come in, we'll pull the fan back off, we'll pull this, I call it the stator, we'll pull that back off. We'll pull these brackets back off, because we're not going to use those because that's only going to be set up for 389. I think the brackets off the epa10 will work because it'll bring everything back down where it's supposed to be. And I think we'll probably swap. I already took all that shit off, but I'm gonna have to take the coolant or the window washer fluid tank, put it back on this radiator, take the coolant overflow tank, put it back on here, and then we'll be using the radiator that came out of it, I'm almost certain, because it'll sit at the right height. So, and then we have the fuse panel ordered. It should be showing up here pretty soon. The fuse panel and the wiring harness should be showing up pretty soon. I still got to address this fuel line issue. I forgot to tell Tom about that. But, and then I don't know what I'm going to do about this fuel cooler. I don't even see any fittings on this one for a fuel cooler. Might be doing away with it. So, it appears to me that the epa17 didn't even have a fuel cooler on it, is what it's looking like to me. So we'll probably just get rid of the fuel cooler. What else? The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about is, okay, so this plugged right in to the firewall connector on the new engine, but, you know, are the pinouts the same? You know, that's the thing. Are the pins the same? You know they're probably not going to be. So, anyway, that's another issue we could more than likely have. So I'm gonna go home and well, first of all, I got to put all this crap up, and then we're gonna head to the house and put this video out. All right, guys. Like I say all the time, these guys are always pulling funny things on me. So make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, you know, if it's unsubscribed, you go back in there and resubscribe. And if you feel like, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. And I'll see you on the next one.